What is a common operational mistake you see from clients who are new to these self-directed accounts? And how does your team help them course correct?
So we will see people trying to use non-qualified funds. They have investment brokerage accounts and they think that they could bring those over to CamaPlan and use those to self-direct invest. So we do require additional information from clients when they set up their account or ahead of time. We'll ask them, what type of funds are you bringing? Where are your funds? And they'll send us a statement and there's no wording indicating on there if it's an IRA, a 401k. So we do, check. We do see that. We catch that. We don't want anyone making any type of a mistake with their with non-qualified funds. Sometimes when we send paperwork over to other, fiduciaries, they may not pick up on any types of mistakes. So we are extremely careful.
Awesome. And that it's just nice to know because if somebody is, new to this, they could inadvertently make a mistake. And you don't want to do that with all of these, you know, tax law related issues. So it's nice to have somebody who's an expert on it kind of having your back.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
can I speak to that point? I think a part of the reason that people are apprehensive about doing a self-directed IRA is because of what you just said. It can seem like overwhelming or just like it can seem intimidating because you don't want to do anything to mess up your IRA. And so the nice thing about CamaPlan is that although we have the track record, we're only a company of about 29 people. So when a client calls and talks to Courtney and they're just getting things started and they say, okay, I had talked to Courtney, this makes sense. And then a week later, they have another question and they call back. They're usually going to get Courtney again, or Courtney will be available. So it's not like they're like having to restart the
Right.
story. Courtney remembers them and remembers what they're doing. And so that familiarity with the situation and sort of the natural checks and balances that sort of come into play from the compliance standpoint that we can look at from an IRA compliance, I think is very, very crucial in making people comfortable with this new kind of investing they're doing with their retirement capital.
Yes, that I know speaks to me and I'm sure speaks to our listeners because, you think of big banks or other financial institutions, you're going to call, you're going to get a call center. It's going to be some random person. They're not going to know your history. And it's really frustrating. It's not a
Yeah.
good experience, but it could be like, hey, Courtney, I talked to you last week. You know what's going on. And this is the new question that I have as I'm trying to figure this out. It's a very different experience.
It's like one of my favorite. So I speak to a lot of investment sponsors and naturally about how we can work together. And naturally they say, okay, well, what makes you great? I love flexing Courtney and I love dropping Courtney's name and that familiarity because Courtney is going to be the person they talk to. And when they're ready to make the investment and they go talk to our operations team, they'll talk to Sarah from our operations team and Sarah sits 5 feet away from Courtney. So it's just like, it's all very nice and cohesive. And that really affects the client, the investor quite a bit because they know they're not just a number. They know that Courtney and Sarah or whoever they're working with really knows who they are, knows what they're trying to do, and is looking out to make sure that the whole transaction goes smoothly.
Love it. Now, Matt, as we've talked about a little bit, private lending is one of my favorites, and I know that it's a big use case for self-directed accounts. How would you recommend if somebody's thinking about doing notes and private lending within their self-directed retirement account? What's important that they keep in mind with structuring that, and what do they need to understand going in?
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I actually used to work on the capital raising side prior to CamaPlan, and I worked for a real estate debt fund as well as, so we had a fund and we also sold fractional participations in notes. So I am kind of partial to notes too. So in terms of how someone should think about, doing private lending inside of their IRA, number one, when an investment is made from the IRA, whether it's a note or anything else, that investment is going to be titled to their IRA. So your IRA is its own entity. If it's your IRA at Schwab or your IRA at CamaPlan, they're all their own entities. They're not you personally. So that means that on the titling of that investment, it's going to be to your CamaPlan account. So for example, CamaPlan FBO for the benefit of Matt Moore, IRA, and having that knowledge, both mechanically that you have the titling on there correctly, but also understanding that relationship, I think is very, very important to understand that your IRA is going to be the one that holds this loan. CamaPlan will administer that account for you. So you're not going to be involved in kind of the management of that investment. It's going to be your IRA. Why? As it relates to sort of how you structure the note, CamaPlan cannot give you any advice on how you should do things. We're not allowed to give you investment advice, but what we find seems to be the best practice for a lot of investors who are doing this is either they're working with a real estate attorney or someone like that to help them, or a lender to help them originate and structure the note and make sure that all the pieces are in place that they need to have for a real estate note, for example, assuming it's secured. That's definitely number one.